Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Read and Reread. I'm Angelia, and today it is time for Friday Reads, the last Friday of March 2025. Today is the 28th, and we will be well into April by next Friday. I feel like I just made a wrap up because I did last week's wrap up on Monday instead of Friday. So it's only been 4 days since I did a wrap up, but I want to get back on the track of the Friday schedule. So I actually have quite a few things, although hopefully it'll be not so long. In the TV report, we are still watching White Lotus, which is, of course, completely bonkers. And I can't believe that anyone's even considering going to that dinner party. If you watch it, you know what I'm talking about. And then we started a couple of things that we only have seen 1 or 2 episodes. We're trying The Studio, which is on Apple Plus, which is a comedy about Seth Rogen getting his dream job as the head of a movie studio, but he wants to make artistic films, and the studio is dedicated to big blockbuster, big franchise kind of things, and he's trying to figure out how to do his project. It has Catherine O'Hara in it as well, which is wonderful to see her in a show again. And then also we're trying Paradise, which is on Hulu, which I went into it having not read much about it. And if you haven't read anything about it, maybe you should try this too, because I thought it was from the trailer. I thought it was just about a guy who's a Secret Service agent. It's the actor Sterling. I forget his last name. I'll put it up here. Anyway, that guy. And he's a Secret Service agent, and to the president. And then he's going to continue to be his private security or something after he's the president. And then I guess at the beginning, somebody murders the president. So I thought it was just a political thriller mystery kind of thing, but there's more. I'm not gonna say anything else. And so yeah, that's what we're watching right now, and kind of laying in wait for a couple of things to come back around that are supposed to start back up in April. So on to the books. Since it's only been a few days, I haven't finished a vast amount of things, but I do want to talk about a few different books. There's one stellar book that I finished in this week, and there was a DNF, which is unusual for me. And so let's just run down through it. Okay, the discussion is wrapping up on A Little Luck by Claudia Pineiro. I finished this a few weeks ago. I read it ahead of schedule. We got really into the discussion this week about the whole book, and we're talking about it and kind of our overall impressions of the whole body of 7 books that we read, and favorites or rankings and things like that, and then this one in particular. So I'm really enjoying this discussion. And then I think as a group we would like to read together again, but we're going to take a little break first because we all have other events and projects that we're also participating in. A book that I think I had just begun when I talked on Monday was a buddy read with Roz from Scally Dandling about the books, and we read Women Talking by Miriam Toews, and we both just sort of inhaled this book. I think I read this in just a couple of settings. Settings? I was sitting in more than one settings, and there was a couple of sittings. Anyway, I read it fast, and so did she. And it's really powerful and really intense. And I knew it was going to be good, and it did not disappoint. This was definitely the reading highlight, the star of the week. And we're sort of wrapping up, but we're still discussing a little bit, I think. So I'm not going to go all the way into it, and I don't want to spoil it for you anyway. But it is based on a real-life event that happened in a Mennonite community in Bolivia, where women of the community were being assaulted in the night, and they would wake up very confused and groggy with evidence of sexual assault. And they were gaslighted into thinking that these were some sort of evil spirits or a satanic visitation in response to their own sins. And really, it was men of the community who were spraying them with an animal anesthesia. And so eventually they were caught because one woman caught the men coming in her window. Miriam Toews herself grew up in a Mennonite community, not as not as strict and as the one portrayed in this book or the one in real life, but pretty strict. And it does inform a lot of her fiction and nonfiction, her experiences growing up in that community. So in this novel, she imagines the aftermath of that discovery that the men were perpetrating these crimes. And the entire book is a couple of days where a group of women are meeting in a hayloft. A group of men have been taken to the city and jailed for this crime. And then the rest of the men, the able-bodied men, have gone to the city as well to try to bail them out, including the leader of this community. The only men that are left behind are very elderly or a couple of people who have special needs, and then this one man, August, who had left the community for, 20 years maybe, and then he's come back. He's sort of on a probationary status, and he is teaching the young boys of the community. The women are not literate. They do not receive any schooling, and they all speak a language that is sometimes referred to as Low German, and it's a very specific dialect. So they're meeting in this hayloft to decide what to do. Do they want to leave? Do they want to stay and insist that rules and structures are changed? Do they want to forgive the men? Are they required to? Does God want them to forgive the men? So through the lens of their faith, we hear them grapple through these decisions. And they've never really had to make independent decisions before. Their lives are very prescribed and dictated by the rules of their religion and the men in the community. But the whole book really is these conversations and then some additional narration by August in the hayloft. And it is absolutely, the writing is stunningly beautiful. The relationships between these multi-generational women, the concepts that they are grappling with, that they are thinking through and articulating for the first time without interruptions from the men. I don't want to say anymore. It's really powerful. And so now I've read 2 books by Miriam Toews, and I am really eager to read more. It's really, really fabulous. One of my favorite books this year so far. Now, one of the other events in March was March Mystery Madness. And I had a plan, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, but this is the last week, and I was thinking that I was running out of time, that I was going to have to shift my plans, and I stole an idea from Lindy of Lindy's Magpie Reads, who talked about a fun book that she read to qualify for a mystery that's a children's book. And while I was watching her video, I looked it up and found it was at my library, and she encouraged me to take some time to read this really adorable book, which is Detective Stanley and the Mystery at the Museum. The author is Hannaah Tunnicliffe, and the illustrator is Erica Harrison. It is the first in what appears to be an upcoming series, because there's a little blurb at the end about the next book. And this is about Detective Stanley, who is a dog, and on the very first day of his retirement, just as he is ready to sit down with a marvelous stack of first day of retirement pancakes, he gets a letter from the nearby art museum that a crime has happened, and could he please come and help them out, even though he officially is retired. And so he goes down to the museum and finds out that there has been a vandalism and possibly a theft of the new exhibit by the goat artist, Bleat Mondrian. Clues emerge, and eventually the crime is solved. But the charm here is in the illustrations. From the very beginning, the apartment building and all the things going on in the windows, and just a lot of really fun details. There's a clue very early on in the book for a sharp-eyed reader. She uses all the space. There's lots of fun details to look at all around. And then at the end, there's some actual information about the real artist, Pete Mondrian. So the next book is called The Green-Thumbed Thief, and it's a botanical burglary. So I'm wondering if each one is going to have the factual material at the end. But anyway, super cute. Really loved it. Thanks, Lindy, for the recommendation. And so I therefore accomplished reading a mystery in March. But then I found myself with a little pocket of time, and I realized I also probably have time to read the novel that I actually selected for March Mystery Madness, which also was going to qualify for Melinda's Storygraph Challenge under the category of, what was it called? Read a Golden Age Mystery. And that was Dorothy Sayers' Gaudy Night. And unfortunately, I must confess, this is the DNF. And let me explain why. So I was looking forward to this book. I read a couple of previous Lord Peter Wimsey mysteries. I liked them okay. I didn't love them, but I found them amusing and entertaining. I liked them okay. And I really loved the book Square Haunting, that was about Dorothy Sayers and some other writers who all lived in the same square of apartments in London. I think between the wars was, hold on, I found it. Square Haunting by Francesca Wade, 5 writers in London between the wars. I learned a lot about Dorothy Sayers and the other women represented who all lived in the same place, Mecklenburg Square. And even in the novel, Harriet Vane, the main character, also lives in a flat in Mecklenburg Square. So it was really fun to revisit that. And I had high hopes because what this book is about, first of all, the mystery is not a murder, which is unusual in these Golden Age mysteries. It's about vandalism and poison pen letters that are being passed around and different acts occurring at Harriet Vane's old college. Harriet Vane is a woman that was introduced in a couple of earlier Lord Peter Wimsey books. Peter Wimsey helps get her off the hook when she is unjustly accused of murdering her ex-boyfriend. And then they solve a crime together in another book. But this one really focuses on her. She goes back to her old college for a reunion, and the reunion is called the Gaudy Night. There's an event, there's day events, night events. But they ask her in the aftermath if she will come back and help them solve this rash of vandalisms and nasty letters that are occurring. They don't really want to bring in the police or anyone professional because they don't want to draw negative attention to the women's college. It's a fictional women's college at Oxford. What I was interested in and what kept me going for a while was the examination in the 1930s of this women's college and the conversations that the women are having who come together at this reunion about the academic life, the scholarly life, the professional life, and they're grappling with issues of marriage and whether they have to subjugate their academia or their professional aspirations when they marry. Harriet Vane is grappling with a marriage proposal that she not sure she wants to pursue. And so I found all that part of it sounded really appealing to me. But what happened was I got up to about page 186, I think. And then I looked at this book and it's 500 pages long. And I realized that after the beginning, after about the first 30, 50 pages, nothing was happening. It was sort of a treadmill of, she had very similar conversations with a very large cast of characters in this college. And I was just getting bored. I got bored. I was bored. To cut a long story short, I got bored. I kept looking and wondering how this could possibly be more than 300 pages. Like, what are we going to do for the next, all these pages? And I was looking, I had just made my April TBR video, and I was looking at the books, and I was just thinking, well, when I just finish this, these are just look so good. They are just calling to me. They're shimmering at me. And then I realized, well, why can't I just read them right now? Why am I torturing myself? So I don't know if the book is a matter of bad timing because I really wanted to be reading something else, like not necessarily that this book is, maybe it isn't boring. Maybe I just wanted to be reading something else, but I felt like I had to try to read it now because it was a mystery and this was the event and da-da-da-da. Or maybe it is just indeed boring. It has really really solid ratings. I've heard so many good things about it, and the topic seems like it would be really appealing to me, but somehow it just wasn't working. I don't know. It sounds like a me problem. Sounds like a concentration problem, I guess. But for whatever reason, I put it down because what I really, really, really wanted to read was The Dream Hotel by Laila Lalami, and I started it last night. This is a buddy read with Michael Clark. It didn't start out to be a buddy read, but library things lined up at the right time for him, so we're going to read it together. We haven't talked about it at all yet, and I just started, so I'm not going to say very much, and I couldn't even if I wanted to because I've only read the first couple chapters. This is about a woman named Sarah Hussein, who is an archivist. She works at the Getty Museum in Los Angeles, which is one of my favorite museums, but I don't think the museum's really going to be in the story. But she went on a trip to London for work. She's married. She has some twin toddlers. She gets detained on her way back in at customs. She gets flagged for something and gets pulled aside to an office. And we find out that we are in the near future and that there is data collecting software that's constantly assessing, like a credit report, but it's assessing your risk report for committing various crimes. And she's been flagged because her risk level is above a certain threshold, and she gets sent to a detention facility. The idea is that people who are suspected that they might be liable to commit a crime are detained for 21 days, and if nothing transpires, then they are released. However, once you get to these facilities, which have private contracts and motivations of their own to keep their, clientele, as prisoners, whatever they are, the rules, they have lots of rules, and any variation from the rules extends your stay. Your points keep going up. If you argue, your points go up. Arbitrary people, different guards have their own little petty grievances, points go up. So once you get in, it's pretty hard to get back out. And so that's the setup. We're just getting to know her. She's there, what the surroundings are like, what her personal past and her history is like, her family and all of that. So that's where I'm at. It's really gripping right from the start, and I'll talk more about it next week. And I'm very excited because that author is going to be appearing at the San Antonio Book Festival, which is in 2 weeks, that I am going to. And I will post a link to that if you want to look. There are some really excellent authors going to be at that. Right off the top of my head, I know I'm interested in Laila Lalami, Cristina Rivera Garza, Fernando Flores, Karen Russell. Wait, who else? I have like a whole list of ones that I'm excited about. Erin Entrada Kelly, Sandra Cisneros, Naomi Shihab Nye. There's a lot. Some of them live in Texas, some of them are from all over, and they've come to the event. I'll post it below. I'll talk more about it in the next couple weeks. All right, and then last but not least, how could it be least when it's this big? I am continuing to read The Count of Monte Cristo, and where am I at? I'm on page 536, so I'm moving towards the center of the book. I'm not halfway through, but I'm getting closer, and it's going okay. I get on Jags, where there's a section where I read a bunch of chapters and I get really wrapped up because there's just so many little mini stories within the story. As the Count moves around Europe trying to get vengeance for wrongdoings and make reparations to more virtuous people. And so sometimes I'm really into it and sometimes I'm not so much into it, but I'm hanging with it until we get back into a part that's more engaging to me. I have to say I'm kind of a character reader, and this is more of a plot-based book. The main character was pretty fascinating to me during, I don't know how many pages, but the first part of the book up to a certain point, and then it sort of shifts we're kind of more removed from him, and we're seeing what he's doing, but we're not really in his mind anymore, or we're not that close with him. And once he obtains a certain level of resources and clout in this world, he's not as interesting to me as he was at the beginning. I feel like he's kind of turning into some of the things that he was railing against to begin with. But we'll see. We'll see. There's a lot left to do. And we'll talk more about it as the weeks go on. So this weekend I'm going to continue with The Count and The Dream Hotel, and then I will look at my April TBR to see what I should hit up next to be on track. But I think I probably say this every month, but I think that my April lineup is the most exciting one so far for me this year. I don't know why. I'm just really, really jazzed about the books in that pile. So I hope you have a great weekend. We're going to take a cooking class tomorrow and learn how to make, well, we hope we learn how to make Asian dumplings. There's an Asian culture museum downtown that has started a cooking class series, and some of them are vegetarian and vegan. So we picked one where they were teaching something that we really don't know how to make, but that we have enjoyed at restaurants. So we're going to learn how to make dumplings, we hope. Have a great weekend, and I will talk to you soon.